All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Bible Believer's Perspective. Today, I'm going to cover the Charlie Kirk assassination. This just happened several months ago, back September 10th, 2025. So we're just about 4 months out. I have a very special guest with me on the phone today, someone I've known for a while who's done some radio. And he's an expert on some things that I'm not, but I'm catching up. And he's also followed the Charlie Kirk assassination. First, I want to get a little bit out of the way. I'm just going to tell you very bluntly at the top of the show. It is a conspiracy. There is more than Tyler Robinson involved. There is a cover-up going on. And I think we all know what federal unit is covering up. And if that is, in fact, the case, this goes to the highest levels of government, not only in the United States, but also in another country. We'll get to that. The people, we're going to give you the cast of characters involved. But right now, I want to give you the motive of why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Charlie Kirk was assassinated for two reasons: his influence upon young American voters and money. And it wasn't that they were going to take his money, because Charlie didn't have a service per se or a product per se to sell. He didn't come to your house and do handiwork or build things, something like that. He went to college campuses. He spoke at political events and things like this. So he was dependent upon donors. And you had small donors and large donors. Small donors are not going to try to control you. They're just happy. They like the work you're doing. And so they're not going to control you. They might suggest things or something like that. But the big, powerful donors, the ones who give in excess of millions and millions of dollars, or who offered you tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to buy your influence, to buy your vote, if you will. Those are the ones you got to watch out for, and those are the ones that really got to Charlie. Another problem was he found somebody that was embezzling from TPUSA. There were some TP Turning Point shell companies set up by people inside his organization that were skimming money for digital marketing, things like this. This is tied to a Arizona state senator. We'll name him. We'll name one of the shell companies, the place where this money was going to. Charlie found out he was going to order a Doge type investigation and audit of his own TPUSA. This would happen about a week and a half before he was basically executed. There were probably millions of dollars gone. One of his people inside Charlie's organization was living a little higher on the hog, paid $500,000 cash for a house when he wasn't making $500,000. So there's a lot to cover here. We'll start to get into it. But I want to give you up front, Charlie was killed because he had a powerful influence over a important voting bloc in the United States, a conservative voting bloc, one that was very pro-Israel. And Charlie had decided that he'd had enough with Israel, that they were committing genocide in Gaza, and he was withdrawing his support from Israel. This is something that the conservative movement in the United States couldn't afford, much less the Israelis, because the United States gives some $4 billion a year to Israel. So there you have it, kind of in a nutshell, as to why he was taken out. It's a very sad day for America. It's a very sad day in the political community. We could hope this is not true, but this is where evidence is leading us to believe. You've probably heard my special guest in the background there. Special guest, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, formerly Jack Justice, but my real name is Steve West. And I'm not, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've been following what's taking place since about 2014. And at the time, I had an opportunity to do a radio show. I broadcast out of a small station in Liberty. And I gained pretty good following in that little show. But I soon found out that, guess what? I was not going to be able to expand my show to a larger venue because I was way too controversial. And as I learned things, as I would research each of my shows, it seemed to be the same actors who were behind all the duplicity and the treachery that was taking place in America. And, it didn't matter what the issue was. If it was a problem for America, that's where it was originating from. So, and so I've been very studious with regards to Charlie Kirk as well. And I followed it quite closely. So, but I would say Tim's pretty much on target. I do think that, there are national interests here. There's Israel is one thing, but this Judaism and Judeo influence in America is another, because these people who have their allegiance to this ideology, we'll call it Judaism, their ideology, swears their allegiance to their race, to their ideology, and to their nation state, Israel. They really have no allegiance to America. They're there to serve Jewish interests and their aspirations for Israel, or their aspirations to, for America and all of Christendom, Western Europe as well. So it's interesting. It's, what happened to Charlie Kirk. One of the questions that Tim was going to raise. Go ahead, Tim. Take it here for a minute.
Okay. Let me kind of set up something, because you can find this video online. I'm sure most of you that are interested in this topic of the assassination of Charlie Kirk and how, what, when, where, and why, and everything, have seen the video of Erica, his wife, mention in a recent interview that Charlie had a meeting with some important donors earlier this year. I think it was probably up in the Hamptons in New York. And they asked him, and she comes out right and says this is a quote from her: "God forbid something happens to you." This is his donors talking. "God forbid something happens to you. What would happen next at Turning Point?" Wow.
That is interesting.
Does that kind of set the table? Wouldn't that make your hair? I mean, that's like a mob thing. That's like the mob saying, "Hey, you got a nice house there. It'd be too bad if it burned down."
If something happened to you.
Yeah, something happened to you. Well, something happened to Charlie.
Well, that's a veiled threat.
Yes.
You can just say that is a veiled threat.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure people that deal with people that are like that, they know exactly what that means.
Yeah. Let me give a little bit of background on Turning Point for those who aren't familiar. Turning Point was founded in 2012 as a 501c3 political activist organization. Bill Montgomery helped Charlie form this right after Charlie graduated from high school. Bill was in the Tea Party, if some of you remember that. So it's launched right after his high school graduation. The purpose was to engage high school and college kids in conservative politics. Before Charlie's assassination, they had raised over $389 million. I mean, not just this year, but I mean, collectively over the years. That's quite a bit of money. And of course,
wait a minute. I think they had $150 million annual budget. So
yeah, well, I mean, recently they did, but they had raised. This was, I think, from Wikipedia, $389 million.
I believe it's higher than that.
Yeah, it may very well be. They're in 900 colleges and 1,200 high schools. They opened their national headquarters in Phoenix in 2018 with 30 staffers. Most of their money came from GOP donors of all backgrounds. I would guess would support them, but they had a lot of heavy Jewish donors. The pandemic helped bring in $55 million in 2020 alone.
55 million in 21.
55 million in 2020. And Turning Point Action Now, here's one of the side companies. I would call it kind of a shell company. And this is going to be tied to one. Tyler Boyer raised $11 million in 2020. Half the money that he raised were from 10 anonymous sources for that $11 million, for about half that 11 million. Now, Charlie Kirk supported Trump and was on the campaign trail for Trump in 2024. Like I mentioned, Charlie turned on Israel. Of course, Trump is close to Bibi Netanyahu. Trump's got Jews in his family. Charlie Kirk had the powerful influence over the youth and future generations of voters. So if he was going to turn on Israel, this was going to be a problem. And Charlie refused to be bought. So, there you go.
Charlie, not only was he going to turn on Israel, he was going to renounce this Jewish influence within our government, and knowing that their loyalty was not to America. I believe there's quite a few people in Jewish, that are practicing Jews that are on the, Trump's cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And typically the way they do business is they do business behind the scenes. In other words, Barack Obama was one of their surrogates, but his campaign manager, David Axelrod, was Jewish, and his chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, was Jewish. These guys are the ones running everything. That's typically how they do business.
Yeah.
And I think they think that Trump is one of theirs. And so Trump has got all these people in these positions of influence within his administration. Trump's a very stealth player. I mean, the guy is incredible, but I don't know that he's all there like he was 5 or 6 years ago. When he ran that 2016 campaign, he was sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he's that person anymore.
Yeah, we're about 10 years down the road from that now. 9, anyway.
Yeah, we're 10 years down the road. So Trump, one of the strategies that people have used is, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yep.
And I believe that was one of Trump's strategies as well. Doing business in New York, he had to deal with these people because they ran New York. And by the way, Trump's wife, Ivana, was Jewish, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was thinking of somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, Ivana was Jewish. So technically,
Jared Kushner was married to his daughter.
Well, yeah, but that's his daughter. But technically, all the kids could be Jewish and could claim Israeli citizenship by their right of return because their mother is Jewish.
Then they'd have a dual citizenship, correct?
They could have dual citizenship. Yeah, the requirement to claim dual citizenship is that 1/4 of your ancestry, basically one of your grandparents, must be Jewish, and you cannot be practicing a different faith. You don't have to be a practicing Jew, but you cannot be a devout Catholic or Presbyterian or Baptist or Christian in any way. So that would be one of the stipulations of them claiming dual citizenship with Israel. But they've all been quite close and were raised around these people.
Right.
And like her mother, I think Trump's wife was an Olympic athlete. She was a skier, I believe, for Romania or Yugoslavia, one of those Eastern Bloc countries.
Yeah.
And beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Talented skier, but she was Jewish. So this, for what it's worth.
Right.
And I think that also gave Trump some legitimacy within the Jewish community.
Yeah.
His father was German. I believe pretty much they're all of German descent. Prussian, German, same thing. And but I believe that's their Jewish familial tie, in addition to Ivanka Trump, who married Jared Kushner. Now, I think one of the boys married a Jew too, didn't they?
I couldn't say on that. I don't keep up with them or the Kardashians.
Okay. Well, I think may have been married. I don't know if it's still ongoing.
Okay.
But at any rate,
yeah, the one divorced. No, I don't know what his wife was. Let me back up a little bit here, as I mentioned some things. At the top, just kind of giving you the motive for things. So, and I've got some questions. I got some pictures I'll show of the assassination, and who was probably the trigger man. I'm sure some of you have seen that video. I can mention Turning Point USA was his organization, but there were some shell companies called Turning Point this, and Turning Point that. These were set up by Tyler Boyer, who was the COO, that's a Chief Operating Officer of TPUSA, along with see, I got to find where I got so many notes. It's incredible. An Arizona state senator. And the Arizona state senator set up this company called 110 LCC. And Tyler Boyer was cutting these checks from TPUSA for services to this one. He was sending to this one place. He might send it to Turning Point this or Turning Point that, Turning Point 1, 2, or 3, or 4, whatever, however many companies he had set up. But they were all going to the same address in Arizona. It was going to a parking lot. This guy, investigative guy, some of you may have seen it online, some videos. And he says, hey, it's a strip mall here. Well, and they were sending, one of the checks was $721,000. Well, it was going to a UPS mailbox at a UPS store. And they're running their business, and businesses do this. They'll get their mail going to a UPS store, and they'll come by and pick it up, and they'll have packages and whatever. But all this money, that's where that was going. There was no business there. This business does have like a one-page thing online, and it's been there for a number of years. It's set up through Delaware, so you don't have to list the people like you used to. But it is Tyler Boyer, and it is the state senator. Jake Hoffman is his name.
Now, Tyler Boyer is still the CFO, isn't he?
I think they changed out. They still show him on the Turning Point site as part of Turning Point, one of the shell companies. But Boyer was living above his means. He paid cash for a $500,000 home. Now, you say, what's going on here on the audits? Well, there was an audit company for TPUSA. It's called Baker Tilly. If you check out the background of Baker Tilly, they're very suspect. They've been fined and they've cooked books, I think, for other companies from what I've read so far. It's called Baker Tilly. So Charlie had ordered a DOJ type audit of TPUSA about a week before his assassination. Upon his assassination, Tyler Boyer cancels that new audit. So, there's a motive there. But let's go to before the assassination, because, and of course, you mentioned Charlie was turning on, he rejected reportedly $150 million from Bibi Netanyahu. Well, if Bibi's getting $4 billion from the United States, guess where that money was coming from? He's withdrawing his support. He was losing Jewish donors. One guy, Robert Shillman, had a pledge of $2 million that he canceled the week before Charlie was assassinated. So you got those things going on. He's got some internal stuff. He's got external pressure. And then he's got his wife. And then a week or two before it happened, Charlie said, they're going to kill me. Erica was overheard by Charlie. He had cameras in the house, and I forgot where the source was, but Charlie had her on camera saying, I can't control him anymore. I'm sure that, really kind of played into Charlie's mind there. The other thing is this, somebody else has reported And that on the other side, the voice says, well, then you know what must be done. Now, leading up to a couple days before the assassination, there were some people spotted at Fort Huachuca. And Fort Huachuca is a military base. It's outside I think it's Tucson area. And the guy noticed these people. And he noticed this cute blonde with a ponytail and glasses, but he really kind of noticed her eyes when she removed her sunglasses. And a couple days later, Charlie's killed. This was on September 8th. He saw him at the Candlewood Suites outside Fort Huachuca. And then the next day, he was going on base. He was former military. He wanted to clear up some matters with his service. And he saw the same people coming out of the meeting. Well, after the Kirk assassination, he recognized as one of the people as Brian Harpole, Charlie Kirk's chief of security. He recognized the blonde when he saw the eyes. He says he's 99% sure that was Erica Kirk. And there were some other people involved too. What are they doing at Fort Huachuca the day before the assassination happens? And yeah, it's very shocking. This is not, I mean, this can't be coincidence.
I have a question for you real quick, and we need to talk about it. What was, the purpose of Fort Huachuca? What did they do at Fort Huachuca? Fort Huachuca is a stealth propaganda training base. They would train these kids, these young recruits, to infiltrate whatever, whether it was a foreign country or maybe to keep tabs on, institutions in this country. And they were going into churches. I'm sure that, TPUSA has been infiltrated. It
was probably a planning meeting. You got to realize TPUSA is not necessarily a Christian organization, even though Charlie Kirk was a Christian, very, very good one from what I could tell.
Very devout Christian. And that's why he could not, turn his, look the other way. He had to address this because he recognized it. And he also, once he understood that what Israel was doing with Hamas and in Gaza, once he began to see it for what it was and understand that it was orchestrated, that he just couldn't support Israel any longer, and he was questioning his Jewish influence in America.
And the other thing is, they had given him so much money by that time over the years. Now he's totally ruined their investment in him and his organization.
Not just that, but he had a lot of influence with young voters, these college and high school kids. These were the next generation of voters. Yeah. And if Charlie was going to survive and was going to become public with his, his new positions,
that would have ruined it for him.
then that would end our relationship with Israel.
Yeah.
And so they had to take him out. Yeah. Now, there's one question that you had, and why don't you ask it? You think Charlie, this may have been all an act, a deception, and he's hiding out on some tropical island somewhere. And I just don't believe that could be the case.
Yeah, it kind of looks like not, but then again, it is a possibility. Well, did you see the picture of Erica Kirk holding his hand in the casket? Do you know that's a silicone doll? That is so obvious.
Oh, I don't know. I did see the picture. I don't believe. Here's the thing. I don't think you could pull something off like that with Israeli security right on top of the event. Yeah. I think when he had Israeli security at all of his events, and then he was turning on Israel, that they're going to make sure that, he's not going to be speaking much longer. Yeah. And I don't think you could pull off a hoax like that right under their nose. Yeah, probably not. We would like to think so, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, we haven't heard from him in almost 4 months. Now, if he's in hiding, it's going to be longer than that.
Yeah, that's true.
But
the rest of his life.
I just don't think it's possible. The second thing is, now the pictures that you have, I have watched very close up enhanced images of the assassination.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot see where the bullet entered his neck. Were you able to see that on those pictures?
Yeah. Well, let's get to the. Let me cover.
We're going to say bullet. I'm going to say projectile.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think projectile. Let me cover just a couple little things real quick here.
Okay.
We got Erica spotted at Fort Huachuca with some others, military intelligence and all that going on. Obviously, we believe Erica's probably a honeypot placed there. Her mom, her dad was part of Raytheon, helped build the Iron Dome. Her mom was into geofencing and collecting data on people, also tied to the DOD, which is now the War Department.
And they put their daughter in that position too, by the way. This girl is loyal to her parents.
Oh, yeah.
They are loyal to Israel to no end.
Yeah.
And
there was also before the assassination, and let me give some credit here to some other YouTubers, Stu Peters, Jimmy Dore, Candace Owens, Unearthly Enigma, who looks like the anonymous guy, because I got a lot of my information from them. And then I stumbled on somebody last night over in England. That's where he's from, but he's just on his Facebook page. He's got pictures you wouldn't believe.
He does.
Yeah. I'll share
of
some.
The assassination.
Yeah. And then
I gotta see these.
And then there's he's got links to videos of people that had it on there, especially the brown shirt guy. We'll get into that in just a minute. But
listen, make that public to your audience.
Yeah, there's research that was done in Israel and Washington, D.C. prior to the event, months in advance, on UVU, University Valley, Utah, area hospitals there, Tyler Robinson, doctors, politicians, and all kinds of people. And they were Google searched, and they found this on Google Trends. It's since been wiped, but they have screenshots that these places and these people were researched from an IP address in Israel and an IP address in Washington, D.C. Then we got, and you probably know more on this because you follow Candace Owens a little closer, the Egyptian planes that follow Erica Kirk. And the two things that the FBI got really nervous on was when people were spotted at Fort Huachuca and when the Egyptian planes were brought up. And Charlie says, they are going to kill me. And his wife says, I can't control them any longer. In 2023, an insurance policy was taken out by TPUSA on Charlie Kirk. I don't know who the benefactors are. I don't know the company. They paid a $350,000 premium, which would garner some $20 million or more on life insurance.
Much coverage.
Yeah. So some of the people that were spotted, here's my other note, at the Fort Huachuca thing was Brian Harpole. That's the head of security. Erica, a congressman from Nevada, and Cabot Phillips, a former boyfriend of one Erica Kirk. Wow.
Ooh.
So there's a lot going on there. Let me grab some other notes. Okay, let's go to during the assassination, and let me see. I will try to pull up some photos here. So I got Steve in my hand with my phone. Hopefully I won't disconnect him, and I will hit this. And got to scroll a little bit here. Here's one photo. I'm going to hold it up here. And you can see Charlie Kirk's shirt poofing out in the back. I think that's interesting.
Is it from the side?
No. Well, the photo is from the side. It would be from Charlie's. Now, this may be, I bet you this is reverse photo. So it's probably Charlie's right side that the photo's actually taken on, showing to his left. And you can see the back of his shirt poof out. There's no wound or blood coming from his neck. All right. Here's who we think the assassin is. This guy has been named as Clint I have to look at the name here real quick. It's the brown shirt guy. Oh, I'm sorry, not Clint. Rick Cutler, the trigger guy. Right here. He's got the sunglasses, the brown shirt. See him reaching at his sleeve there, right below that yellow circle. And I'll show you the motion he makes, is he reaches that sleeve and he goes like this. He's not adjusting the sleeve down. He grabs the middle and jerks up and down on it. But that's who we think triggered whatever mechanism right there.
So basically what
and here's the shot up. Here's the you can see Charlie there, and you see the guy in the sunglasses with his arm extended. I'll get a little closer to the camera. There you go. You can see it right there. He's got his arm extended. He's grabbing the sleeve, and when he pulls on his shirt up and down, and he's not adjusting it downward just to get it down, you hear a pop, like a gunshot happen right there.
But there is I know they use sound effects to mimic the sound of a gunshot too.
Right.
I don't believe, I know that.
And you can see Charlie's shirt moving up against him here. He's already been hit, but there's no blood yet. There's no blood coming from the shirt yet, but there's a big poof, and the poof seems to be coming from behind. Now here's the first scene where there's a hole in his neck. And we actually think that you can see the camera behind his head there. They think that's where the shot came from. Remember, the guy goes, and the guy's last name's Farnsworth. I forget his first name, but this is going to be really interesting when I get to this point. But this guy goes up and takes something out of the camera. They think it's the SD card, but that camera may have actually shot the projectile from the back that hit Charlie from behind. And we think that wound on his neck is an exit wound.
Wait a minute. Let me, from what I've studied with regards to the assassination, first of all, he had a lapel
There's the
mic.
trajectory. Yeah. Yeah, but we don't.
Mic. It was
yeah,
on his right side,
mm-hmm.
right there where.
And that may have been part of it too. There could have been a couple things going on here. Here's the shot where this would be from Charlie's right. And you can see his necklace pop up over his ear.
Yeah.
Here's the guy going after the camera afterwards. That's Farnsworth. Now, remember the name Farnsworth, because guess who is on the defense team for Tyler Robinson? This guy's cousin.
That's not by accident.
That's not by accident.
Quite interesting.
Here's what I think this is cute. It's a Turning Point shirt, and it says Turning Point shot Charlie.
Tim, let me kind of go over what I have.
Here's the assassin guy again.
The Tyler Robinson, the chump that they're trying to charge with this assassination, supposedly was on a rooftop about 140 yards away from Charlie. And as Charlie is facing forwards, he would have been at about the 1 o'clock position, looking straight forward, being the 12 o'clock. So he's to his right, about a 1 o'clock position, probably at an angle above Charlie, maybe 10 degrees, probably not more than that, because at 140 yards, that's a little ways.
Yeah, now here's my thought on this, Steve. He's got that shot. Charlie's under the tent. He's halfway under the tent.
Yeah, but he would be visible. But the point is this: if he was to take that shot and hit him in the neck,
mm-hmm.
and these cameras were all in front of Charlie
mm-hmm.
photographing this,
mm-hmm.
It didn't happen the way that we've been told.
Mm-hmm.
Because a 30-06 is going to make one hell of an impact.
Yeah.
And it's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's, the shirt is still intact. His neck is still intact. There's no blood anywhere. But there is a poof underneath his neck,
mm-hmm.
underneath his shirt, right where the lapel is. And that poof travels across to his left side.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like there was a projectile implanted in his lapel mic. Now, if it was a dart, if it was a small diameter dart that was heading for his carotid artery, typically, it might not go through his neck, but if it hits that artery, he's going to bleed out from the inside. But it wouldn't create, this gush.
Well, we saw the initial gush. If people saw the assassination footage originally, you see an initial gush come up out of his neck.
But it's coming off of his left side, right?
Right, on his left side.
And what they were saying on the initial photographs is that was this bullet, this 30-06, a projectile being deflected off of a flak jacket that he was wearing underneath his t-shirt.
But he wasn't wearing any flak jacket. Well,
that's right, because Erica has already confirmed that he wasn't. Oh, I only wish he was wearing a flak jacket, or I wish he was wearing, armor-piercing, vest.
And sure, she does.
No. And even if he was wearing one of those, it wouldn't deflect the bullet. It absorbs it. I mean, it'd be like getting punched right there in the neck. It'd probably break your collarbone. Yeah. But it wouldn't penetrate. Yeah. But, a 30-06, for a vest to stop a 30-06 is nothing for a vest to stop a 45 or an 8mm round, but a 30-06, that's a high-powered projectile, and it's traveling quite fast. It's pointed, and I don't think a vest is going to stop that. Right.
So there's a couple other unusual things that happen right before whatever shot that ends up killing him. The last person asking the question is a guy named Hunter Kozak. I think it's his last name. And he asked about mass shootings in the United States, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out his dad works for Jimmy Kimmel Live show. I thought that's quite interesting.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
And he just happens to ask about mass shootings, and then boom, there's a shooting of Charlie Kirk. That's just too coincidence. There's too much coincidence. The other thing is the security team. If you're watching before, they're doing these hand gestures. We used to have them in Little League Baseball, whether we were going to steal or run or swing away or take the pitch. He'd grab his earlobe, and then he'd make he'd roll his arms, and then he'd pat his shoulder, or whatever he's going to do. The hand signals that they use, and the one guy's checking his glasses, like he might have clicked something on some special glasses, I don't know. But there's all these hand gestures and signals that the security team's giving. Now, the one other thing, if you look at the assassination video from, I think even within 10 seconds before, one of the security guys comes up behind Charlie and kind of moves him to a position.
Oh.
I saw that. I saw that. I see the brown shirt guy. I see all these hand signals, and poof, he gets it, and he falls back, and everything else. But one of the guys on the security team comes up to, Charlie was leaning forward talking to the kid, and then Charlie sits back a little bit, but not all the way, and the other guy kind of grabs him real quick and adjusts him in his chair. I thought that was strange.
The photograph, the video of Charlie being assassinated that I've seen, I was talking to someone else this afternoon, and she told me that his head hit the desk, and I didn't see that at all. The video that I saw, this puffed shirt, there was no penetration of the shirt. Whatever was taking place underneath the shirt. But the discharge might have caused his T-shirt to puff up a little bit. Right. And so whatever happened, it was out of sight. A 30-06, you're going to see right now where it entered, and it's not going to be deflected. It's going to go right through. Yeah. A 30-06 did not happen. Here's another thing. We've been told, well, it did pass through his neck, that he had the neck of steel. Yeah, right. And so I heard Candace talk about it. He says, well, it might have been a frangible bullet. One of these bullets that breaks up when it on impact. But you cannot go to any gun store and buy a frangible 30-06. Anybody that's out hunting doesn't want that bullet to break up because they're going to have that deer for dinner. Yeah, and where would Tyler Robinson get that bullet? Yeah, where's he going to get a frangible bullet anyway? But it didn't happen, because if it had, you'd seen it. The videos would be obviously clear. This bullet was coming from a direction in front of him at about a 1 o'clock position, at about a 10-degree incline from his neck. There's no way that this, narrative that they're trying to give us has any truth to it, because it's just obvious.
Yeah.
But
hey, don't believe your lying eyes.
Well, now I did see initially, something with it looks like red coming out the back of his neck before he fell behind the desk.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I saw, it looked like a complete look of startled, as the impact took place. He probably lunged forward a little bit, and then he fell over backwards behind the desk.
Right.
Is that what you saw?
Yeah. He kind of slumps a little bit and then falls.
His
obviously was shocked to his body. I mean, you get hit by something, and
your head's going to be jerked forward because the body's been pushed back, but then the body's going to carry it over.
Right.
So he fell over, and then everybody jumped over the table, grabbed their SIM cards or whatever else they were taking.
Oh yeah. Let's get to some of that. There was a trap door right below him, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a trap door, and you can see it in some of the footage. And somebody opens it up and goes in there. I don't know who it was, but somebody opens it up and goes in there. Okay, so they remove something from the camera behind, and we actually think there's a shot that may have come from there of something. We don't know. The other thing is they're passing off items. They're handing each other items. The guy in the brown shirt who grabs the sleeve and jerks it like he's pulling some type of a trigger mechanism, jumps into the fray over the table, and he's back there.
He jumps over the table and grabs some. I assume they were taking the lapel mic, plus all the evidence that they had in the cameras.
And right here, everybody, there's two things going on. There's been a crime in the fact that Charlie's been shot and injured and is dying. The other thing is all these security guys are tampering with evidence.
That's exactly right. They're passing things off and getting it out of there. And then, who's left is there to care for Charlie. But they are covering their tracks immediately after the assassination. You got three crimes.
Number one, you got the conspiracy to do it. Number two, you got the action he shot. And number three is they're all jumping in and removing items and hiding items and doing whatever they're doing to cover up the deal. So you've got the conspiracy right there because they're doing a cover up right there, right in front of God and everybody and cameras and everybody.
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald, I look back at the Kennedy assassination, and as Kennedy was being marched out of the police station, he said, I'm a patsy. This is a setup.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes later, Jacob Rubenstein,
Jack Ruby,
jumps out and shoots him. And he says, why did you do it? And he said, I wanted people to know that a Jew had the guts to kill Kennedy's assassin, when actually he was covering up this crime.
Yeah.
It was also a Jewish crime. And so that's another story. But they have to have a patsy. And so here comes Tyler Robinson. But the narrative that they're giving us about Tyler Robinson is absurd.
Yeah.
For 30-06 to strike him, in the neck or, in the collarbone area.
It's going to blow a hole in you.
It's going to make a huge impact, and it's going to be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case. But if you had a dart, projectile inside that microphone, that lapel mic, it might be able to be pulled off that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly. It's obvious to me that it wasn't the 30-06.
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't the 30-06, then everything else is all bullshit. We're getting nothing but lies. And we need to assume. And what did Bibi Netanyahu say? He says, Israel had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we didn't do it. You see that in NFL games there, the NFL's in their last week of play. And you see that every day in the NFL. Oh, I didn't touch the guy. I didn't hold him. I didn't interfere. Yeah. Why is he screaming innocence so loudly? Some other things. Some other things on the crime scene. Okay, I mentioned the trapdoor to the armed signals. He pulls the car. They didn't carry his body too well. It didn't look like they were. There's no medics around, but when they carry his body, they just like picked up an arm and a leg and just almost drug him.
Well, the guy was huge.
Well, yeah. But I mean, there's 4 of them, and they could have got more people.
30 pounds.
Yeah. But I mean,
he's not a small guy.
I mean, I have to pick up heavy objects at work, and I have people help me. But 2 of us can get 150 pounds pretty easy, and Charlie wasn't 300. There's an opening and closing of an SUV trunk or rear hatch to Charlie's right. Then there's Mikey McCoy, who's one of Charlie's upper guys, who's on the phone and is walking by as Charlie's being shot. And he's allegedly on the phone. I've heard he's been on the phone with his wife or his mom, and he was on there with Erica Kirk. I don't know what order. He's on a 3-way. I've heard some various stories, but Erica said she got a call right away from Mikey just seconds after it happened. But he's like, must have known it was going to happen just by his demeanor. And you do realize they paved over the crime scene like 2 days later?
Yes.
And you know whose company paved over the crime scene?
Whose company?
Tyler Robinson's dad's company. Just by coinky dinky.
Yeah.
That's something. And Tyler Robinson's being represented by the guy's cousin who took the camera information out or whatever.
When I see these disabled veteran, commercials, soliciting us to contribute, it breaks my heart what has happened to these guys with these conflicts in the Middle East. Every one of these conflicts has been for the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They accomplished nothing. We have no accomplishments in the Middle East. Those guys who died there died for nothing, and these veterans that were maimed and injured there, it was for nothing. They were it was deception that got us over there to begin with.
Kind of like the Vietnam War.
The Vietnam War, but this is the worst. The Vietnam War. Back then we didn't understand that communism was a Jewish conspiracy. We didn't understand, the Jewish, roots in the Chinese Communist Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. We didn't realize the Jews were behind all of that, and so we were fighting communism. But what we've got now going on in the Middle East is a whole nother level of depravity. We got these young men volunteering, thinking they're going over there and serving their country, and they're not serving their country. They're serving Israel. They are chumps for the state of Israel, and they have been duped into going over there and putting their life on the line. One of the strategies of Jews is to have surrogates to fight on their behalf and to be blamed for their crimes. Surrogates like Lee Harvey Oswald, like Tyler Robinson, they cannot let the truth be known. And now that this is being investigated the way it is, they're liable. What the real fear is that they'll decide to pull the Samson option and start nuking people around the country and around the world and blame it on China and Russia and get the United States in a shooting war with China and Russia when Israel has these nuclear subs that are armed to the teeth. They're stealth stubs. You don't know where the hell they're at. And, having these nuclear bombs going off in these cities. And then immediately we're going to start shooting at China and Russia. They're going to shoot back and we're going to have nuclear Armageddon. And the Jews would do that just to avoid complicity in this kind of thing. The USS Liberty is well documented. It was a Jewish action. It was a Jewish, the Levant affair. Are you familiar with the Levant affair?
No, it was probably before my time. You're a few years older than me.
I guess I am. Well, in in the late 1950s, and I'd say
that's before my time.
Okay, well, I was just a kid then. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a baby.
I wasn't here then.
Okay. I was born in 1954, but I had no knowledge of this.
10 years behind you.
Later. But the Suez Canal
I've
was
heard of
built by Britain. And so they built the Suez Canal, and it gave the Mediterranean access, to the Indian Ocean and to commerce. They have to go around Africa. And so what happened was, England was going to go ahead and cede the Suez Canal to Egypt. They were going to give it to Egypt, and the Jews, by this time they had their state of Israel. They did not want Egypt to be in control of the Suez Canal because Egypt were sworn enemies. And so what they did was they organized some Jews in Egypt, and they dressed them up like, Muslims, and they went into post offices and banks and government buildings and did terrorist attacks. And they were trying to make it appear that there was a radical insurrection taking place in Egypt, and to persuade England not to give the Suez Canal to the Egyptians. And it was called the Levant Affair. And so one of the guys, he had his bomb in his pocket, and it started. I guess it was a pyrotechnic type bomb to start with before all the fireworks started. and one of the security guards noticed something in his pockets. What the hell? Come over here, buddy! And he got this guy and got the thing out of his pocket, and they arrested him. And once they arrested him and found out who he was, then the whole plot was disclosed.
Yeah.
And Israel was found guilty of it, and it became well known that Israel was behind all of it.
All right.
And it was all a Jewish conspiracy to try and prevent the UK from turning over the Suez Canal to Egypt.
Yeah. Let's look a little more here at kind of after the assassination, or as it's happening. He's taken to a hospital in this vehicle. The vehicle afterwards was cleaned and auctioned off. The site was paved. I thought it was unusual because I was coming home that afternoon. I heard I saw on my phone that Charlie had been shot, and then I heard on the news actually that President Trump announced Charlie's death. I thought that was kind of unusual. I thought it was kind of unusual that Air Force Two showed up to take his body. I think it's irregular and probably illegal that an autopsy was not performed in the state of Utah where the murder happened. There's just a lot of things that are suspicious and just don't add up. Now, I found somewhere the other day that there's 47 minutes of untracked time on the vehicle that moved Charlie from the assassination site to the hospital. I don't know what all that's about. I haven't got to research that in depth just yet. And then, of course, a week or two later, whenever Netanyahu makes an announcement that Israel denies any involvement, then you have the demeanor of Erica Kirk. And she ends up getting voted in as the new head of TPUSA. Now, she's no Charlie. And I think the reason they put her there is because they control her. She does exactly somebody else's bidding all the time. So you got all that. You got to look at who stands to benefit from Charlie's death, and that would be Tyler Boyer, because he's not found out on the embezzlements probably. Erica certainly gets a big amount of money. Now the money can flow back into TPUSA, and the Jews can control the voting bloc again without Charlie.
Well, not only what you just described, but because of this infiltration, Turning Point now has 600 employees. And so you've got a lot of these people that are in positions of influence. They're using TPUSA to launder money.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's basically a money laundering operation, and Charlie was going to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
So there are people within TPUSA that were heavily invested in that operation, and then plus Israel and the people that were close to TPUSA, and in our government, and these Jews have infiltrated all of our branches of government.
Now here's the thing. So who's going to do the investigation as to what happened? The local police? Well, certainly not the university police and security. It would maybe the local police, maybe the state police in the state of Utah, but the FBI jumps in. Oh boy, there's a problem, because the FBI jumps in. That's Kash Patel, and who does Kash Patel report to? Pam Bondi and President Trump. And who does President Trump report to? Bibi Netanyahu.
Now, here's an interesting thing about Kash Patel. Kash Patel is Indian.
Right, Hindu.
Now, okay, Hindu. And by the way,
that's Indian.
J.D. Vance is married to a Hindu girl also.
And Vance is Catholic. He's not evangelical.
Well, yeah, but he married a Hindu. So
yeah.
But the point is this: India is all in for Israel, and the reason that India is so sympathetic to Israel is because they have problems with Muslims there. The Muslims are upsetting India just like they, any border country to a Muslim country. Islam is a political movement masquerading as religion. And anytime a religion is calling for a theocracy or theocratic rule, that's a problem. And so India has great sympathy for Israel because of their problems with Islam there. With Pakistan, now it's interesting that, the Jews tried to orchestrate Muslims going into China, and China rounded them up and put them in camps and called them Uyghurs. And
Uyghurs. Yeah.
Yeah, Uyghurs. And China's not going to have anything of it. It's interesting that these two formerly communist countries who had so much, who were so heavily influenced initially when they were founded, Communist China and Russia. But Russia is no longer the Soviet Union. The Bolshevik Revolution took place in Russia, but then it expanded from there, and then they absorbed all these satellite states surrounding Russia and created the Soviet Union. But the Jews, they use surrogates to do what they want, but in a single party system like China or like Russia, eventually people that are Russian or Chinese gain control of the system, and they're there to serve the Chinese people and the Russian people. And by the way, when the Soviet Union collapsed, 1.5 million Jews got out. They fled. Every one of them fled with Israeli exit visas, but 90% of them came to the United States because they were affiliated with the politics and the political system that had failed and had caused so much hardship in Russia. Now the Russian people, they're not going to have it. And the Chinese people are the same way, by the way. China, we look at it as a communist state, but it's not what it was when it was originally created. Yeah. China is for Chinese. And the thing about China is 99.9% of the population is Chinese. Yeah. They don't have this, They're not a big melting pot like the United States, that's for sure. Yeah, they can't hide in China like they can in the United States. Yeah. And by the way, Russia is almost the same way. Now that they've lost all their satellites, Russia is about Russia. And so it's an interesting thing that, the Jews who basically were running the gulags and were punishing Christianity and executing Christians and Russian Orthodox ministers and priests, and the same thing was taking place in China with whatever religious order there was there. Now, China has come back to its roots. Russia has come back to its roots, but they've learned from what they went through, and now they're very much for China and they're very much for Russia. Unlike the United States, the Jews who have influenced America have us working for Jewish interests.
Yeah.
And China and Russia, they're not part of that.
So what do you think? We're right at an hour. What do you think is the end game here for the assassination investigation as far as the public and the government goes, the FBI? Are they just going to prosecute this kid, railroad him through, and be done with it? Is the truth ever going to?
They're probably going to drag it out because, quite frankly, there's so much talk on the internet, and there's so many people that don't buy the lie.
Mm-hmm.
That if they started having this trial now, it would be a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
And
well, I think they got it. There. I know some. I don't know if it's evidence or something. I know Robinson had an appearance the other day via video at court, but there's something they're holding back till next May. And
they got to put it off.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Right now, just in the last month, the United States has been shooting these Venezuelan vessels out of the water.
Mm-hmm. And they captured Maduro yesterday.
Well, yeah, we took the oil tankers and now Maduro. Now China and Russia, who were their allies, had some real heavy silver and gold mining operations going in Venezuela, and they pulled out over $1 billion in assets just before Maduro was kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
But these are all the BRICS nations, and these BRIC nations are fed up with the United States, fed up with our partnership with Israel. They're fed up with what's going on, and they want to break the petrodollar.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to prop up the petrodollar. And Venezuela is the largest oil producing nation in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
These guys are loaded with oil.
Mm-hmm.
Plus they've got rare earth minerals, silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
They got all kinds of assets, natural resources there in Venezuela. And I don't think that China and Russia are going to sit back with their investments in Venezuela and let them just go by the wayside. So this is going to ramp up. What we've just done by, it's Maduro's right as a the leader of Venezuela to decide who he wants to ally with. And the people that are importing drugs into this nation are coming from Colombia and Mexico, but now Mexico's got a Jewish president. And that's another
true.
Interesting thing that just happened.
Hey, on this Venezuelan deal that just happened, somebody put a list out of below is every U.S. senator on the Venezuela list. Have you heard about the Venezuelan list?
No, I haven't.
Apparently, these were they claim that these senators were getting kickbacks from the drug cartels.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. You can look at all these people that are elected in Washington to national office. They're all being supported by AIPAC. Democrat and Republican.
It almost looks like every senator.
Yes.
Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh yeah, these people are corrupt as hell, Republican and Democrat, and there's only a few of them, that aren't, and it's quite interesting. Everybody, we have lived our lives believing in conservative values. Conservative values are Christian values.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple names on this list. And I just counted them up real quick. There's 57, but there's Republican and Democrat. Lisa Murkowski, Mark Kelly. Murkowski's Republican, Alaska. Mark Kelly, Democrat. Adam Schiff, there's no surprise there. Hickenlooper in Colorado. Blumenthal, no surprise. Chris Murphy, no surprise.
Colorado's as liberal as they come.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Mazie Hirono, no surprise. Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst and Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul and Bill Cassidy and Susan Collins, all Republicans are on this list.
I'm surprised Rand Paul would be on there because Ron Paul was absolutely a patriot.
Yeah, this is Rand Paul, his son.
I know it's his son.
Elizabeth Warren, probably no shock there. Janine Sheehan, no shock there. Cory Booker, no shock. Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina. James Lankford, Oklahoma, Republican. Dave McCormick, Republican, Pennsylvania.
Wait a minute. are they saying that these guys are being supported by these cartels or by AIPAC?
No, this is Venezuela, so it's drug money.
So it's drug money coming
from the Maduro regime. Here's what it says: dollars in kickbacks from the Maduro regime and Venezuelan drug trafficking.
I got to tell you something. I think.
It may not be true. I don't know. It's what somebody has.
No. I think that's a psyop. I don't believe it. They're trying to justify what we're doing with Maduro by taking him and turning him into a narco-terrorist.
Right.
And charging him with narco-terrorism. And they're trying to justify it. Rand Paul especially. Come on. Give me a break. Ron Paul, he would turn over. Is Ron Paul still alive? I believe he is.
I think Ron is, yeah. I think they're both.
Well, hell, if his son is allied with Maduro, that's, he shouldn't be allied with Maduro because that's not in America's interest. But at the same time, if Venezuela wants to become a BRICS nation, that's their right to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we'll see what happens. See which Democrats holler the most, and those are ones that probably were getting kickbacks. Who knows? It's all happened so fast, so it's a lot of breaking stuff out there, and it's probably just conjecture. But that's what somebody posted up, that 57 of the 100 senators are on the take from Venezuelan drug money. I mean, well, why haven't we gone there before?
I question that.
Yeah,
because Rand Paul would be really an enemy of Trump, and the Jewish cabal that's behind him. So if the Jews that are in the White House right now, there's always a dichotomy within Judaism. You have the communist atheist Jews, which are the Reform Jew synagogues, and then you have the Hasidic Orthodox Jews, which are about 10% of Jewry, 10 to 15%. The other 80 to 85% or 90% are the Reform Jews. They don't have any faith at all. They're just communists.
Yeah.
The Orthodox Jews, and they're all, by the way, Talmudic. They're all satanic. They all, it's a religion of race. It's not something that the United States should ever even justify as a religion, because we believe that all men are created equal. We don't believe in separating people by race. And if your religion does that, it should qualify as a religion. God's not just there for one race.
Yeah.
The other thing is we don't believe in theocracy. And so when a religion is creating a theocracy or seeking a theocratic rule, such as Islam always does, Islam should qualify, because that's the objective of Islam, is a theocratic state. But what we have as our closest ally is the worst. It is a racial theocracy. It is a theocracy that says God is for our race and to hell with everybody, the rest of humanity. That's what makes Israel so foul. And so the United States Constitution says we don't believe in theocracy. We believe all men are created equal. And if you call yourself a religion that doesn't go with that, it should not be granted religious privilege. So Israel and Judaism and Islam, none of them are compatible with American values. And they should be, we need to have a religious definitions bill that identifies what we should consider religion, because what today are claiming 501c3 religious,
it's very open for interpretation, for sure.
Oh, it is.
All right.
And then if you look at Scientology, theirs is a political movement masquerading as religion. Mormonism is suspect, but I wouldn't be so quick to go after Mormons. We got to get rid of the Muslims and the Jews first. But I think when the truth about Judaism is finally fully known, I think most Jews will basically throw their hands up and renounce Judaism themselves. And so when you see people that are Jewish who have renounced Judaism, such as Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer is incredible. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, the chess champion.
The chess champion. Yeah, I mean, this guy, he basically, he was a genius, had an IQ of 181 from what my research tells me, which, who knows if it's only 160 or 70, that's pretty good.
That's just slightly above mine. How about that?
But Bobby Fischer, he was fed up with the Jews who were running this country. And so and he was an OCD. He was obsessive. He was obsessive compulsive. Once he hooked on to playing chess when he was 6-year-old. By the time he was 12 or 13, he was competing against masters, and just a phenomenal competitor. But Bobby Fischer was as soon as he had a voice, when he had distinguished himself as a chess master, man, he railed on Judaism. And he was raised by a single mom who was a communist Jew, and it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is look at Jews who are going to be honest about what Judaism really is, and will
Let me
rejected it.
Let me wrap it up here. I'm going to share a verse. It's a good point to close out on. And I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining me. This comes from the book Revelation. And in Revelation 2:8 and 9. And he says this, and unto the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan.
That's exactly it.
And that's it. Steve, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon, sir.
I hope I was good at, addition to your show.
Yeah. Great. Kept it clean. We'll do it again sometime on something else.
All right. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was Steve West, who used to be known as Jack Justice on a local radio station here in the Kansas City area. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this was informative. Hope it gets you to think about what really happened with Charlie Kirk and his assassination. And I want to again thank fellow YouTubers out there like Stu Peters, Jimmy Dore, Candace Owens, and others, and my new friend in Great Britain for his help with some photos and some insight that he was able to give me. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was informative for you. Like Charlie said, keep asking questions. Thanks for joining me.